sort of wish I could do this without glasses, but since I'm outside, ooh, let's see. I'm gonna put this set on. Okay. What did I want to talk about? All right, I'm going to talk about Pulsechain. What's going on with Pulsechain and why I think there are some very serious bullish indicators, right? And okay, so there's three I want to talk about, but I want to read some tweets. First one from Ox Daredevil, who is I'll read his. Anyway, he said he's an emerging crypto genius and he's blind, and he's one of the developers who's making blockchain and crypto charting and analysis and on-chain analysis accessible to blind people, people who can't see like others, but are finding other ways to see, right? So that's cool. So shout out to you, Ox Daredevil. This relates to the MakerDAO contracts. There's a lot of dialogue in myself and even in my circles, my crypto circles around stable coins. Like if PDAI were going to become a stabilizing asset like DAI, which is there's a bunch of contracts with a basket of collateral assets that back the stable. So anyway, so that's the first bullish indicator, is what's going on, both the narrative about PDAI, the speculation about PDAI, it's huge. But if you look now on the blockchain, like a lot of people like Ox Daredevil are doing, we start to see what's going on beneath the surface, right? And so I want to read his tweet. That's the first one. Connected to that tweet is some other sleuths, on-chain sleuths, finding an optimism layer 2 that has been developing. So the second bullish indicator is Liberty Swap Finance, and the first one is MakerDAO and Optimism 2 and Liberty Swap Finance, which has to do with tech optimization, right? Using the technology, blockchain and smart contracts to upgrade in the MakerDAO, in the PMakerDAO context, make a native stable that really could be PDAI. Okay. So the first bullish indicator is tech optimization. The second one is Liberty Swap Finance, which is all about onboarding, marketing, and money, liquidity, cross-chain, onboarding people and capital into Pulsechain, and then also assets out, in and out, right? So Liberty Swap Finance, and the interesting thing about them and the whole Liberty thing, and this is clearly connected somehow to Pulsechain core development, right? And so it's all connected to legal certainty. And then once there's legal certainty for Richard Hart and the team of developers, once there's legal certainty, then they can optimize, the rails that make capital flow happen. And that's what's happening now. If you look at the inflows into Pulsechain, finally there's been outflow of capital. Now there's inflow, mostly from Ethereum and Base, right? So I started thinking, oh, and then Liberty Swap Finance started talking about Base. And I've been thinking about Base app and Coinbase and the US. I'm like, oh, they're targeting the US, right? With mass marketing, right? Mass marketing, as well as on-chain marketing on X and other places. And so, yeah, so Liberty Swap Finance represents, you know, access for capital and people to Pulsechain assets, right? So that's huge. That's the second bullish indicator is Liberty Swap Finance, and it's people and money, right? Coming back to Pulsechain, right? To blow it up. The third one is a micro bullish indicator for one ecosystem, the Titanx ecosystem, which has been bridging assets. I think that's about to explode, just like the rest of crypto and the finance world is going to be waking up to Pulsechain, right? Richard Hart and his team are going to make sure that people wake up to Pulsechain and take it seriously. That's what I think is happening. Okay, let me read this. Let me go a little into the weeds here. And this is for the and if you haven't been following under the hood for how might PDI, it's not a pegging. It's basically what happened to PDI is that it started out as a speculative coin and community, and like most of Pulsechain a bunch of months ago, it hit hard times, and PDI went to zero for like the second time, right? As a speculative coin, mostly because whoever was holding it, except for the diehards, dumped it, right? More sellers than buyers at that point. I knew way back when that there would never be a chance for PDI as a stabilizing asset until there was legal certainty and until there was freedom to do some variation of the MakerDAO contracts and vaults and all their lending partnerships. That's how they stabilize DAI, right? And so PDI I always thought wouldn't be viable until there was legal certainty, and then there was the freedom, because MakerDAO wasn't going to do this, right? So I've always thought it's a combination of, I don't know, the Atropa dev and Richard Hart's dev team, and maybe this this developer, they call it like this Vietnamese extractor dev guy, who some people think is actually part of the team and is connected to the optimism layer too, right? That's part of the mystique of what's been happening. So, okay. Shout out to Ox Daredevil. Let me just read this, and then we'll talk about it. I don't want to go too deeply. I just want to let his words speak for them. Okay. Greetings, everybody. Today, I front run the announcements with my own discovery that is a bit mind-blowing. And remember, this is a blind man, a guy who can't see with his eyes, but is finding ways to see into the blockchain. It's amazing. Right? This is where technology can assist humans. If a human aspires to read the blockchain and technology can help, right on. Okay. Today I front run the announcements with my own discovery that is a bit mind-blowing. Collateralized vaults are now being opened on the MakerDAO. I think he's talking about the MakerDAO contracts on Pulsechain. So, but we'll see. What is interesting about this is that the collateral appears to be coming from other blockchains, such as ETH. This would not be so mind-blowing, except that ETH is not the only network. L2 Polygon, Gelato, Uni, LP tokens are being deposited in one of these vaults also. Here's the transactions. And so you can follow what Ox Daredevil is finding, right? And he's leaving the transactions. Here is the EOA wallet address. Here is a link to the transaction logs link broken with a space on purpose. And he links us to the pulsechainfoundation.org scanner. If you look at the transactions, you can see that one was made a few minutes ago and one yesterday. So it's pretty current. This is his read of what's happening on the blockchain currently. If you look at the transactions, you can see that one was made a few minutes ago and one was made yesterday. Both of these transactions are opening vaults utilizing the DSS CDP manager and stored at the VAT, capital VAT contract of the MakerDAO. The point is that these transactions were successful after the ESM. ESM is the, I believe it's the emergency stopping mechanism. I'm not sure what it stands for, but it's the emergency shutdown mechanism that has been deployed and tested and utilized. And the fact that the Polygon Gelato Uni LP tokens are allowed and successfully being deposited shows that the MakerDAO is being upgraded. The fact that vaults are being made and collateral is being deposited suggests that we may be nearing completion and may be almost ready. Hold on to your hats. You can check the DSS and the VAT, and then he gives links to the DSS and the VAT. Okay. And then someone says, I'm not sure how you do this blind, but hats off to you. And then Ox Daredevil says, that's why they call me Ox Daredevil, LOL. Power. All right. So what he's saying also is it's not code. It's just transactions on the blockchain. All the information is there, and you can look it up. It's right there in the logs. Okay. So the suggestion confirms what I was thinking a long time ago, okay? Only because I was trying to think logically about how this might happen, and I always remember Richard Hart admiring DAI, which is the stabilized asset on Ethereum, right? Stabilizing asset backed by the basket of assets, and also there's a whole series of smart contracts that I don't really understand. I know there's a connection with Aave and compound vaults, collateralized lending vaults. Maybe that's what they're talking about here. I don't really know. But the point is that it's happening. And his speculation is we might be ready to start the process of utilizing maybe a customized variation of the MakerDAO contracts in vaults or Pulsechain. I don't know how that works, but that's the suggestion. And so, yeah, I like the speculation. I've always liked the speculation of PDAI. Now, what's interesting is the speculation is starting to match some of the on-chain analysis. So that's cool. Okay. Anything else? Yeah, compound and Aave pools. Anybody that has really good information about how that might play out and what role they'll play for PDAI, let me know. Let us know. I can make assumptions about it, but I prefer not, because it's not my area of expertise. I'm curious about it. I want to study and share what's happening, but I'm no expert. Liberty Swap Finance we talked about. Let me talk about the Titanx migration of value and why I think it's good for the Titanx ecosystem, why it can be good for individual Titanx holders, but why it's not for everybody. Okay. And maybe I'll start with why it may not be right for everybody. Like Titanx assets that really want to remain exclusively focused on Ethereum, or if they've got some market in mind that they've got traction in, like maybe Base, maybe Sonic, maybe Binance Smart Chain. Like maybe if you've got really great partnerships and you're entering into a new market, I could see it. But so for Titanx assets that really want to be ETH centric, like for example, the Ascendant protocol right now, Builderly and Salvega's protocol, they've just started talking about Ascend Lend. For that, and for any like deep utility, I think you need supply and diamond hand holders on Ethereum so that you can be a service, a utility for Titanx, build on Titanx assets and other Ethereum assets, you know, so that the utility, which is a lending protocol, is accessible. And so I can see why Ascendant supply and Ascendant like focus wants to be on Ethereum. I can also see why Ouroboros, for example, wants the focus to be on Ethereum because we're about to launch like a new staking platform and new deployments on other blockchains. And Pulsechain really isn't up to what we need to do Ouroboros on Pulsechain yet. And so it's really for Ouroboros, I think it's probably important to stay on Ethereum and also wherever's next, where the technology has been optimized for what Ouroboros wants and needs. That's why for me, Sonic makes a lot of sense, assuming there's partnerships and strategic alliances there. So, but other than like those two, and maybe if Jake gets Shogun optimized for Ethereum, but I don't think Shogun is really optimized for Ethereum. I don't think any of the sort of tax tokens are really optimized on Ethereum. And so that's why I feel like mass migration of at least a percentage of Titanx assets to for people that want exposure to the exponential capital inflow that's coming to Pulsechain. I believe over the next 3 months we're going to see huge growth now that there's legal certainty. It's just starting. I knew 3 months ago, which is why personally I started to migrate value. Like my Titanx value is already on Pulsechain because I was like, all right, I'm going to do this because I started to see that legal, but it's still like now's the time if we want exposure to, and we believe that Pulsechain is going to be explosive and it's for our Titanx assets. I see people talking about selling Titanx for Pulsechain, and I'm going to say we're all free to do what we want. Personally, I have a hard time selling bottoms into something else that's pumping now. Okay, that's like FOMO for me, and I just don't like doing it. And so, on the other hand, I could see like if I had $10,000 in Titanx assets and I wanted exposure in, or let's say $1,000, actually, not even 10, let's say $1,000 of my Titanx assets, I want exposure to Pulsechain. Like I would hold it and deploy it in Titanx assets that for me, I am confident it's going to get marketed in the bull run because I want to outperform other assets that I'm holding in the bull run, that requires um, like new users, which requires marketing, right? So that's why for me, yeah, so I would deploy and Titanx assets over to Pulsechain and then pair, not to trade, because the way to get exposure is through, right? It's Hart's law. It's bonded liquidity. It's pairing with strength, right? And so that's why for me, what I've done is like I've brought over my Titanx assets and I have paired it with things that I think are going to be explosive, like bear, mostly because I'm bullish on the Atropa ecosystem. And because I knew that we were going to be able to do a bear pair with Eros, right? And so that's sort of my play. It's like what I like, right? And so Eros for me is like my Titanx gift. I got it as a gift. I think as a community, we should embrace that gift and make it a diamond hand holder group. As many as we need, even if there's 1,000 of us who agree that we're just going to hold Eros, we can take profits on the way up. But what we're really doing with Eros is holding it and pairing it with other Titanx and Pulsechain assets so that we don't trade, but that we make passive income while we're holding our exponential growth asset. And so our Titanx assets on Ethereum get benefited because there's supply leaving Ethereum. We can always bridge it back, but supply is leaving, so we have less sellers, you know, less weight, and so the pumps are bigger on Ethereum, right? Less sellers, less, liquidity, and new buyers are going to pump Titanx assets on Ethereum. And those of us who want exposure created scarcity on Ethereum, and we've created exposure. If I like Bear, which I do, I think Bear, not only it's the best meme coin, it's like it's a $15 million meme coin now. It could be literally a $10 billion meme coin if Pulsechain does well, and if Atropa and PDI and the Bear ecosystem are thriving, Bear is going to dominate, right? And so, yeah, so that's how I'm playing it. I'm using I'm not selling Titanx assets because I don't want to sell them at the bottom. I'm holding them and bridging them and pairing them with strength. And if we don't have Pulse Chain assets and we've got Titanx assets, then maybe sell 10%. Maybe sell 10% of the Titanx assets on Ethereum with the intent that you can use Liberty Swap Finance and go directly into PDI or WRAP BTC or any of the core tokens. And then you can pair what you hold in Titanx with what you want on Pulse Chain. So that's another way to play it, right? And it's fine to sell a small percentage of something if you want to get into something, but I'm just saying, for me at least, I don't want to sell my Titanx assets that are at bottoms unless it's for a reason. It's like a good reason. It's to get exposure in LP with my other Titanx assets. So in that case, I personally, what I would do is hold my Titanx asset, and through Liberty Swap Finance, maybe 10%, I would put it in, sell maybe 10% into USDC. And people are like, don't sell your Titanx at the bottom. I'm like, look, this is freedom. This is DeFi. We need a diamond hand holder culture, of course, but we also need personal freedom to be able to make smart pivots for self and family and friends, right? And so I'm just telling you what I'm considering doing and how I think about it. And so, I could see selling 10% of Titanx into USDC and then personally, what I would do, and I haven't done this yet, but I'm thinking what I would do is get it into USDC and then buy Bear through Liberty Swap Finance. That's what I would do. Or I would take a more speculative bet. If I believe that PDI is, going to $1, and if I believe that, I might get some PDI with that, right? If I believe that the, P wrap BTC, which I actually think the Pulsechain version of wrap BTC, I think that's it'll be part of the backing. So my question over if there is a PDI backing, like a basket of assets that are in these vaults, like what would they be? Would PDI be backed by wrap BTC? Would it be backed by Hex? Would it be backed by Pulse? I don't know. What would it be backed by? That's sort of the mystery. So anyway, so I do think that Titanx migration over to, I've seen now Lotus and Eden holders move. I've seen now Flare holders move. I've seen Flux move. I've seen, who else have I seen? Oh, Smoke moved heavy. So every single Pulsechain pair or token is now on Pulsechain. Now the question is, who wants to bridge over? Who wants exposure? And don't do it out of FOMO, fear of missing out. It's really done out of strategic positioning in the bull cycle. If I'm very happy, like honestly, 90% or more, 95% of my portfolio is very comfortable on Ethereum and a few other places, okay? But for me, like what I'm looking for back on Pulsechain is the explosive from the bottom to a explosive L1 cycle and to participate in that, right? And so if I'm maybe able to bring over $10,000 of capital back into Pulsechain, great. I want to 100x that, right? I'd love to 1000x that, right? But that's, so I'm first going for positioning in the right things that put me in the position to do so Bear, like Eros can do crazy X's. The question will be liquidity and how we find ways to be diamond hand holders and maybe not have to sell, right? That will be the magic with Eros. And that's why for me, it's worth like buying when it's probably $150,000 market cap, right? No matter what it says it's maybe 500,000 right now but it's probably a third of that, right? And it's cap supply, it's PDGC, clone, and it's automated. There's no humans in charge. I want Eros partially because no one's in charge. And I think what's going to happen over time is that it will become valuable as the R bots on Pulsechain buy and burn the hell out of it, right? And so it is one of the Titanx tokens. It was airdropped. It's not a built on Titanx. It didn't go through the rigmarole of like built on Titanx. It got airdropped, and it's a fork of PDG of the Gray's currency contracts, right? So what it is, but it is like a utility because it's a fee sharing protocol, right? Yeah, it's a tax LP web. There's a fee to get in and a fee to get out and a fee to transfer, but that feeds the ecosystem. It's the same thing as PTGC. It's why PTGC has been so successful. PTGC has also been successful because of the DAO and the Treasury and UFO and a very structured approach to liquidity. They're building a liquidity machine, right? Eros is different. It's a totally decentralized effort that we've only been doing for 12 weeks. It's new, it's fresh. And so I think it has explosive beast potential long term. What it's really about for me is just building the liquidity web and making sure that Eros is connected into not just the Titan-X index, but the Atropa index in particular, right? Just because I think we're going to build easiest and best bridges in the Atropa ecosystem. Also connected, I think that there's potential in the UFO world, but what we need to work on for Titan X is pairing at the base first, right? And that's why it's not really the focus about Eros right now. Eros will be the tip of the sword later because it's a demand equation and people will figure out that it's valuable over time, I believe. But right now it's about building liquidity with whatever moves over in a good way, holding two coins we like in LP. That's the strategy. All right. I know I was a little all over the road between, what is it? Okay. All right. I'm out of rhythm. I didn't carve wood today. This is the problem. Oh, you know what? Check it out. This is for Builder Lee and for Salvega, right? This is I brought it back. I mean, I started carving it last winter in the deep dark. We needed some rays of light, and I think actually this was when I'm probably a more emotional being than Builder Lee, but at one point I was like reactive, and he knew that I was pissed off, right? And he reached out to me and he said, "Hey, you doing okay? You're all right?" And it really was all that I needed to sort of get right. And I just let him know what was bothering me. He was like, "Yeah, that was a little rough." Where even in this strange decentralized finance space, we can have friends, we can have confidence, we can, even through written communications, be there for each other, right? It doesn't have to always be, I don't want to be competing PvP with Builder Lee. That would be stupid of me, right? I want him as, as friend and collaborator, right? And so anyway, and same with Salvega, Warrior Soul, right? And so this totem, this is the Ascendant. I forgot the name of what's the name of the constellation that you guys were talking about? There's a constellation associated. I don't know. Anyway, this carving is still alive, honestly. It still has mosses on it, and it's beautiful, actually. There's this, you may not be able to see it or care, but this is part of an eagle feather, right? There, if you turn it like this, there's eagle feathers on both sides here, and there's an eagle eye also. I just this land where I am has eagles flying high above. They nest down by the river. There's they've got big beautiful nests, and they nest down by the river, but they fly over here for, I don't know, for fishing and for whatever, hunting. I'm not sure what they hunt. I think mostly rabbits and rodents and stuff, but I don't know. Anyway, there's a lot of eagles, and I tend to carve what I see. There's a lot of eagles. There's hawks also, but the eagles are huge, and they're amazing flyers, and they just float. And so yeah, and so this is the eagle totem. It's just intended to, in this, and I named it because I didn't finish carving it, but for whatever reason, part of the art is, what I do is first I carve it, right? And then this I think is an indoor piece. Eventually, maybe I'll deliver it to Salvega. We've been talking about a Ouroboros meetup in Miami. So if that happens, I could probably deliver that to Sal if we actually do that. But anyway, it's probably intended as an inside piece. Also, the Ouroboros totem is going to be an inside piece, just because those are. I actually think that we'll see the Titanx totem. I don't know. We'll we'll see what happens. It's a little big to bring inside, honestly. Um, but it would be good in a big space. Actually, yeah, I'll bring that inside. Probably this winter, I'll be finishing all of these inside. I'll take them out of the weather. I like to carve them outside, and then I bring them inside. Actually, I sand them outside, just a rough sanding, and then I'll finish them inside. And the finishing, yeah. So the ascendant light, it turned into the ascendant light beings. First, I was like, ooh, I was started carving it in the winter, last winter, and there were eagles flying over me. I was like, ooh, okay, I need to figure out how to do. And I remember seeing the eagle eye. You know, they were swooping down, and they were probably going after animals. I don't know. They seemed to be hunting, not resting. And so they swooped down closer than normal, and I saw like the eagle eye, and I was like, and the wings were amazing. I was like, wow. And so it's sort of hard unless I'm not a realist. I can carve realistically, but I don't really like to. And so I used to try to do things, and I wasn't happy doing it. And I did them pretty well, but I'm way better being a free carver and not thinking about and just more the shapes. Yeah, so yeah, it's more about the shapes than the actual exact form. So the eagle wings, for example, are just metaphors for eagle wings. They may not look exactly like the wings. Um, but that piece, I love it because I carve it, and then since I've been sharing art, I never used to do this. This is part of the reason why I do X, Twitter, because most people are like, why are you on that? And I was like, I just like sharing art, and I like doing crypto there. That's it. And so crypto convenes there, and I like sharing art for free, just like giving it away, right? Just because I like doing it, and then I hear that people like the art, and it's how I become like an ambassador and not be a jerk, right? I just share art. What was I gonna say? Not that I sometimes I can be a jerk, but when I'm sharing art, I'm tending not to be a jerk. Oh yeah. So so one of the things I started to do was photograph these carvings so that I could share them. And then I started running the photographs through some editing and started to play with the photographs and digital editing. And that's where I found a whole new art form, right? And the interesting thing is certain carvings totally like photograph and then digital differently. Like they look totally different when I put them through that system. And it's a unique system. It's my sort of unique process. It's wacky. But what was happening with this ascendant totem, so first I decided to make it like the ascendant eagle totem, right? And so and they also had a constellation that Builder Lee mentioned. I asked him a question. He gave me the name of a constellation. I forgot what it was, but it was some esoteric constellation that he was interested in. I probably asked him what stars, maybe it's a star, what star are you interested in? And he gave me the name of a star constellation. Um, I'll send this to Builder Lee and maybe he'll watch it and tell me what constellation has been carved into here. But then I started photographing it, and it turned everything about it turned into like a light being. It was like there was light coming out of it. So, and I actually do experience both Sal and Builder Lee, Bullishly, as light beings in that Now, I don't know if this is how they are or you all are in person, but I do think that this is probably how they are in real life, because like how we are like this is a mirror. It freezes us up to do stuff that we wouldn't do in real life. So it's but those two people have been so positive and so constructive consistently, right? And so they are like how I would describe light beings, in that they bring light as opposed to like this low vibe, dark energy, right? Um, and we all carry both of those. It's the yin yang thing. But so anyway, so these carvings, this carving started to photograph and digital art light beings. I was like, wow. And so there's like 200 of those, you know, photographs and things. And so there's a whole light being series that grew out of this, and the carving isn't even close to being done. I mean, I did it for about 2 weeks, so I got the big shapes done, and then I put it aside because I had other things to do. But now that the Ascend Lend is going to be launching, I'll start to carve the Ascendant totem again. Just like now that Ouroboros, here, I'll get the Ouroboros one. Yeah. And I don't know. I don't know if people want to hear about crypto art. I'm sorry if you're boring you, but this is just how I. So this is the Ouroboros totem. I wish I could show it all. I can't really show it all. It's really cool in three or four different ways, and it's really intended. I'm gonna have it spinning like this. It's gonna be on a. I'm gonna have to drill a hole or carve a hole through one point, and then I'm going to. Yeah, this piece is going to be sanded because it's going to be beautiful sanded. It's sort of like what Ouroboros is going through. It's going through a facelift now. It's going to be launching a new user experience. Like, so, and the color scheme of this carving, I mean, I love the existing native color scheme, but based on what Shadowy is designing for Ouroboros and just the color palettes, you know, I'm gonna have to sand this and then stain it. I'm gonna stain it like that blue, purple, and then it's gonna be beautiful. And so I'm gonna stain it, and then I'll probably do some dot painting on this. Some like, sort of inspired by, I don't know if anybody is, there's like Aborigine dot painters, and I just really like looking at dot painting, and have collaborated with some dot painters. I have delivered some wood to dot painters, and then yeah, I do some of my own dot painting. So I think with this Ouroboros piece, I'm gonna sand it and then stain it, um, with some non-toxic stain. I don't like, say, this is why it's going to be an indoor piece. It needs to be a water-based stain that's non-toxic, and then I'll mix it. I'll do a water-based stain mixed with like probably orange oil, um, which is really good for the apple wood, and maybe some beeswax. So I'll do maybe orange oil, beeswax, and stain mix, right? Just so, and that'll be the finish, probably. And this piece, I'm gonna drill it and hang it up and spin it inside, and that'll be designed to make sure that Ouroboros keeps on expanding. It's like the propeller. It's the Ouroboros, like, infinity. It's the infinity loop, actually, because there's a lot of infinity loops carved into here, right? And so that is it's the Ouroboros thing. All right, so this is Ouroboros. I'm gonna throw it over there. It's like what Shadowy has done. He's building unbreakable code. You got to be confident, right? and how shadowy works is like methodically, um, and with deep attention to security and like all of the requirements that go into creating security and safety on chain, right? So, and that carving helps the whole process. It makes Ouroboros safe, right? Just like it makes it safe and expansive. And same thing with this. This is going to do the same thing for Ascend Lend. It just contributes, right? It contributes like to the quantum field. If we believe that in some way all things are connected, right? This is where quantum physics and pretty much all wisdom traditions and spiritual traditions have, it teaches the same thing, that things are all connected in this ecosystem and even beyond where we can breathe, right? So if we believe that then my humble contribution to the to the security and the uplift of, in this case, the Ascendant protocol and the Ouroboros protocol, right? And by the way, that reminds me, I need to start, since I'm now part of the, I studied PDI and Atropa from the beginning, so I'm glad to be back studying it. But I do need to, because I've now invested in some PDI and some bear, in particular, right? I need to start carving those things. I've already got a lot of bears that I've carved, but I may need to carve like an Atropa totem, actually. Yeah. All right. Any questions? Anybody here have any questions? Please. I'll ask questions or I'll take challenges. Anything? Come on. I sort of say that it doesn't matter if anybody's, I'm ranting just to share what I want to share. On the other hand, it is good to have dialogue. It's really, I'm better when I'm listening. So I'm better when, I ask a question and then really listen hard. So if anybody's got a comment, an editorial comment, you can even project hate onto me if you want, if you like. If you've got hate and you need to get it out, I'm good. I'm at this point, I'm good. Like, all right. If not, then peace out. Yeah, I'm gonna start to do some streams. Mm, I really like the rhythm that I'm in, which is in the middle of my sort of carving workday. I do crypto, and now I'm seeing this as part of my crypto research and education project, sharing what I'm doing, sharing what I'm researching, and sharing my opinions, and being free to do that without anyone editing me. In most of these forums, even even when the dialogue is civil, most crypto forums feel the need to shut down dissenting opinions. And that's a symptom of weakness in a culture. It tends to be promulgated by fear that if there are dissenting opinions and outcomers or newcomers hear that they'll be afraid. I'm developing in this ecosystem. We can't do FUD. I'm like, no, it's the opposite. Like, newcomers want to know that there is not groupthink. Dissenting opinions and dissenting perspectives within cultures and communities and networks are so important to integrate into the fabric. They're so important. And when the culture, the ecosystem starts to edit out dissenting opinions for fear of spreading FUD, then you've got fear and weakness in the culture that's like wanting to get rid of the alien voices, of the dissenting voices, so that we can unify. That's not how unity works. You don't gloss over dissent. You actually embrace it. And you build unity through not just dialogue, but aligning interests, right? And so, yeah, so PDI has that, Titanx has that. And part of the reason why I've chosen to do this forum is because this kind of perspective, which is is respectful but unedited, isn't really welcome. It's not really. People say it is, but it's not, because when we're brutally honest in certain forums, people want to shut it down, right? And that's why, for me, the principle is separate the people from the problem. Like, there's never an attack ever on the human unless there's ethics or legal challenges. That's where maybe you need to personalize things. But in general, we're talking about in cultures and communities are what's working and what's not working. And if a culture and a community and a team can only talk about what's working, there's a problem, because that's not where innovation happens. True innovation within products and communities and networks happen when you address the friction. And the innovations happen in some ways looking for the friction, the division, the conflict. We look for that because that's where the opportunities for innovation, growth, creativity, unity are. You've got to go to the dissenting oppositional forces in order to innovate. And so when I either see cultures rejecting dissenting perspectives, or like targeting people, these are the indicators to me that the culture has weakened and it's not strong enough to hold the dissenting opinions, isn't strong enough, probably doesn't have enough strong leadership from the top, because that's where humans are. Like, unfortunately, like humans, we tend to want hierarchical leadership to tell us what to do. We're habituated into it, which is why my experience is people struggle with finding a voice in these decentralized networks. It's part of the reason I don't want to be talking. Honestly, I never talked in any crypto. I've been in crypto since 2007. I never talked until two things. One, I started carving because Jake called me out. Jake from Titanx called me out, not me personally. He basically said, I want to build a community where people's creative talents are brought to bear on the culture, on the community. I was like, cool. I'll start carving. I'll do Titanx totems. That's how and so Jake called it out. I did it. And I'm still doing it. So props to you, Jake, for calling me and others out. Other people have said, well, that needs to be consistent because the culture is losing talent, right? And if you think about how Titanx has bottomed out in not just price, but in community. Yeah, people are coming back on X, but if you really think about it, like, there's probably 50 people left. There's holders for sure, but there's no ballast in the ship right now. There will be. That's why people want buy and burn, anything to save us. No. Titanx is going to have to learn how to grow on its own, right? And part of that requires dissenting opinions, dissenting perspectives that are welcome in the primary dialogues, right? Rant. So yeah, so I need if I'm going to be in crypto, and if I'm going to say anything, it used to be I didn't even have an X account. I started having an X account once I realized in Luna last cycle that I needed to be on X to understand Luna and UST and to see the risk and the opportunity. All right, peace out. I gotta go. I don't know if this is even working.